Okay, moving right along, we are now going into the skills required in the mining sector panel. May I please invite Mr. Mike Penuma from Penuma Academy of Excellence. Yay! Mike, I hope I announced it correctly. Thank you so much, Mike. Please join us. And then can I also invite Vuyogazi Mofu from Skills Development. She's a Skills Development and Research Manager from the Mining Qualifications Authority. Vuyogazi. Hi, how are you? Phenomenal. Okay, just before we start this panel discussion, is there anyone interested in mining or is in the mining space? Okay, forget about interest, because interest is not really intention. Okay, yeah, I know. Kapashe, you are back from yesterday. Me and you can have situations today. Okay, those in the mining sector, please pick up your hand. Okay, sir, I recognize you, and you at the back. Can you tell us about your organization, what it does, and how it contributes to skills development? I'll start with you, sir.
Thank you. My name is Daniel Polis. I'm with the RSA Diamond Corporation Group. We are involved in upstream development from sourcing, mining, and beneficiation through polishing. And we've got vested interest in retail as well. So we dance between two different sectors. Yeah, that's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, my name is Carol Brunt. I'm from Prisma Training Solutions. We're a mine-based training provider specializing in mining qualifications, machinery qualifications, and mineral processing.
Okay, thank you very much. At the back?
Good day, Olga Mashilo from Mabulela Minerals and Project. We are based in Fetakomo municipality. We're awaiting actually our accreditation for the training on mining, and we doing the mine at Atok, just next to Samanko.
Okay, thank you very much. So the three of you will be asking our first round of questions to our panel members. Thank you very much for being involuntary volunteers. So we'll wait for your questions when we open that round, because we actually have an interest in what you do. I would have actually intended to invite you to join our panelists, but for the sake of time, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. So please do have your questions or comments or contributions when we open the question and answer session, if that's okay. Thank you so much. Welcome to our panel members. Can you please introduce yourself and the company, and also answer actually the question, what skills are required in the mining sector? Thank you so much. Okay, so you can switch on the mic right there. Yeah. That's right.
Afternoon. My name's Mike Numa. We've been manufacturing jewelry from 1983. I started the apprenticeship in 83 and qualified in 87. And then spent basically from the first day till I opened a private company to continue training and manufacturing for the public. That was in 2002. I then joined the MQA in the development of all learning material. We also trained the first trade test official, historically disadvantaged trade test official, and have been training the graduate development internship, learnership, artisan learnership, diamond setting. We are now going forward into training mass production and SMME development. It's basically 3 pathways to the qualification, and it's all in all about 12 skill sets. Any questions?
Okay, we'll take questions just now, just after them. Perhaps let's allow Uvuyogazi to introduce herself and also MQA as well. You can just click the button, Vuyo. There we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vuyokazi Mofu. I'm from the Mining Qualifications Authority. Those of you who might not be aware of what MQA stands for, it's one of the sector education and training authorities, the CETAs. We're mainly responsible to facilitate skills development in the mining and minerals sector. That is, by facilitating, we do give funding for skills development initiative in that space. And we've got 9 subsectors, and those are categorized based on our commodities, your platinum group metals, up to the point of your jewelry manufacturing, which sits within the beneficiation. So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you very much. I think maybe let me just kickstart the Q&A, because I really would like it to be a content-based engagement. Oftentimes, Mr. Mike, I don't think we're conscious about the jewelry industry, particularly, in Africa and in South Africa, yet we've got all the minerals that can produce jewelry. Do you have a segment in the company that looks at developing young entrepreneurs, or perhaps young people within the jewelry industry, or do you absorb them in the company and they work? Have you had entrepreneurs that are also in the jewelry sector that have come to you for aid, for help, for skills development?
Yes, we've produced approximately 140 goldsmiths.
Wow.
We trained our own trainers. They were initially graduates that we took through the internship. We selected the ones that would be best for manufacturing and training. And the others were basically about 90 to 93% of the people we train have gained employment in the industry or higher. There are some that are self-employed, and there's even a couple that have got their own businesses and they're employers. There's some that are retailing as well. So what we're trying to do is to create the full circle of skills required, being the high quality hand manufacturing jeweler, as well as the mass production sector now. We've added all the equipment necessary to become competitive with the leading manufacturers of product that we're currently bringing into the country. Unfortunately, 80% of what is sold in the shops is imported. And we've proven that with effective training, with basically a 90 to 93% success rate. Now due to the rand-dollar exchange rate, basically up to 2015, we couldn't compete with mass production. But if you look at China, for instance, we need to look at how they created a miracle in 40 years. From a struggling infrastructure to a world power now. And they did it all through mass production, manufacturing, export. So for us to develop our industry properly, a lot of it will come from the sales of product overseas. If we don't sell overseas, we're going to be cutting our industry into smaller and smaller pieces until there isn't enough to go around for everyone. Now with high tech and proper training, we can basically start to go into the fourth industrial revolution. And I think that mass production, pricing and quality is going to be our solution. Considering we've got all the material, it's ridiculous that we're sending it all out and buying it all back in as product when we can train people properly. The only problem has been the level of training. I have no issue with lots of people being trained. The problem has been the level of training. So for instance, there's been a lot of training providers that are doing level 2, level 3, and level 4. The learners finish level 3 and they're looking for jobs and they're not getting employed. Now when we started with the MQA, the initial intention is to have different pathways to the same outcome. For instance, you'll have a GDP internship. People think it's supposed to be placed above an apprenticeship. Unfortunately, if you take a 3-year diploma, And compared to an apprenticeship's 4 to 5 years. Now you get a learner who's completed a diploma with 3 years, and then 2 of the 3 years will be a learning component. You've actually got a 1 to 1.5 year apprentice. So to come down from level 6 down to level 4, and think that you can now gain employment in the industry on a high level isn't happening. So what we've had to do is we've done a very strong program that basically you'll have three levels in a class, no matter what you do. You'll have a top third, a middle third, and a bottom third. Okay, now in order for your employment level to be very high, you have to set the level of what your training is so that even your bottom third gets employed. Now what we found is if people do level 2, level 3, or level 4, and they just let the learners out of one level, of course they're not going to get employed. Training providers need to offer level 2, level 3, and level 4, and they need to be trained by very highly skilled goldsmiths that have been in the industry. If they don't, they're not going to reach the level, or they're not going to know why. Any questions?
Thank you very much for that. Okay, maybe to Vuyokazi, what have been the tangible results from the Skills Development Center under the MQA? What are the success stories, from the MQA?
I think just looking at the various programs that we offer within the MQA, and one of them being the support that we give to the jewelry manufacturing, we've had success stories where we took a cohort of young people to Italy, and they've come back. We've given them different training interventions around the jewelry. Some of them are watchmakers, jewelry makers, and also some of them are actually making your exquisite African type of jewelry that has got its own market, which is not necessarily in the bigger scope of the market, the global market. Yes. And some of these youngsters have come back to the country and they've been able to start up their own businesses where they are able to employ people in their communities and also transfer the skill that they have learned. But over and above that, what we picked up as a challenge with the young cohort that we've brought, because we've got people that are skilled within our country that can train these young people, but access to markets is still a challenge, because when you look at precious metals such as jewelry, it's very difficult to penetrate those because you need, firstly, the capital. It's capital intensive.
Sure.
You need to have a good capital. You need to have access to commodities to produce the jewelry that you want to produce. And at times when you talk of SMMEs, it becomes a challenge because they don't have that kind of capital. Issues around security, when you talk about precious metals, issues around security for those precious metals, it also becomes a challenge. But what we've also seen is that in some instances, you find that when you train young people in terms of getting skills, whether they are disabled or not disabled, you need to train them using the right kind of material so that they're able to produce the quality of work, so that when they exit, you are 100% sure that they can produce whatever jewelry that you want to produce. But how do you then get access to the material to train them on?
Okay.
Which is also another challenge. But what we've seen as a benefit is that pairing the commodity the producers in the mining sector, for instance, pairing our jewelry guys with those in the platinum sector, how can we actually look at other alternatives of supporting those, so that if, for instance, you look at one mining house in the platinum sector, for some of the offsprings of the platinum that they produce, that they may not necessarily use in their production, can they support some of those initiatives so that we're able to train the young people using the correct metal so that they're able to practice and produce the right products?
Sure, you've actually mentioned a quite important point to the both of you, to say access to markets. We've been talking about that, but how do we access markets? Maybe we can actually discuss that within this forum. So I'll ask the three people that are in the mining sector, if you do have your questions, please can you ask them in any particular order. So yeah, I'm not too sure if you're ready. Are you ready? Do you have any contributions? Hi.
I have a question for Vuyokazi. Hi, Vuyokazi. I've become aware of a certain amount of NQA areas that we classify as scarce skills. Mineral processing being one of the scarce skills. Through my work and discussions with various mine houses in the mineral processing field, I find that there are so many graduates who are not finding placement to do their P1 and P2 experiential training. In the past, the NQA used to offer a grant in order for these people to complete their programs so that they are more employable. Is there any reason why, are there any incentives that the NQA offers for employers or training providers to assist these young learners to go in and complete the experiential training and find employment?
Okay, great. Let's take all the questions. Do you have a question? Sure.
I'll raise this question to the panel, specifically with regards to the mining sector first. We find that many individual, unskilled, uneducated fellow citizens of our country often become poor because of legitimacy. Now, let me explain myself. We find on a daily basis an excess between 30 to 50 different individuals that approaches us to sell some form of rough mineral. When we engage these individuals, we find that they have no understanding of the rules and legalities and legislation around our minerals. We do find that when we do try and steer these individuals to the regulator, that they often end up at a dead end, although their motive and intentions are very pure and very noble. And I do believe that we do have the ability to change the lives of many individuals in our country by re-looking at certain legislation, particularly pertaining to the mining charter. That is my first question or first statement. Second is, I have a question as to understand how does the jewelry and diamond manufacturing sector fit under the mining charter? I do not see the connection. Mining and manufacturing are, although they work vertically, they're vertically integrated, they are completely two disconnected industries that work on completely different rules and scales of economy. Okay. Shall I continue or shall I stop?
Is it your last, is it? Sorry?
I've got 7 more points, but we'll leave it there.
Oh, no. 7 is just depressing. The high blood will just go high. Okay, so I see you at the back and I see you, sir. And then what we'll do, we'll then answer the questions. And that will be the final remarks from our panelists. Yes, ma'am. Please switch on your mic.
Okay. My question to the diamond gentleman is with regard to the DBS certificate. Why is it that the people, I'm going to give an example of the people in the Northern Cape who were given permits to be able to mine the diamonds within their areas, but they are unable to sell them. Now it's all because of the DBS certificate that they must have, and it's expensive for them to get that certificate. And also the other question from my side, with regard to the to you, Vuyo, actually, the question to you.
Just hold on, ma'am. Sorry. Did you hear that, Mr. Pinyu, the question?
Not properly, no.
Okay. Can you repeat the first question? Because I also struggle to hear you, but
So
don't
okay.
speak directly in the mic.
Okay. My question with regard to the diamond sector, it's that there's this DBS certificate.
DBS certificate.
DBS.
Yes.
Yes. DBS certificate, which is required when you are to sell your diamonds on the market. And there are people who have been given their land back in the Northern Cape, and they were even given permits to be able to mine and sell the diamonds that they are getting around their areas. But with regard to this certificate, since it is difficult for one to achieve or to get it, what is it that they can do? How can they help people in the diamond sector who have diamond but are unable to sell them? Now they have to go and sell at a lesser price than what was expected. And my next question is to Vuyo regarding the skills development, especially for the rural areas, whereby most of the mining houses have got mines like your Mudikos, your Samankos, your Harmonies in the rural areas. But the skills transfer, once we have people who have been trained, they are unable to place them. Is there anything that they can do to help the placing of those people, and also with regard to the small businesses to be able to be on the database of those mining houses, because it is a struggle. Always people from Gauteng are the ones that get the opportunities within those mining houses.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Sisi. Last question right here at the back. Yes, sir. Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Mike, perhaps you can answer the questions. Please include your final remarks in that. Thank you.
If you look at the results on the SADPMR register, you'll find it's approximately 50 kilos of platinum being used for jewelry. If we can get our manufacturing sector to where it should be, whereby we transform from 80% imports to 80% local manufacture, for instance, and we start to develop markets in the US and Europe, we can take the platinum levels far higher. The only way we're going to develop that correctly is if we use the same or employ the same methods that China did with their manufacturers. I seem to find a similarity in how they put their import levels very high, and they also subsidized the manufacturers that were exporting. So it almost seems as if they took the import duties and they offered it straight over to manufacturers. I may be wrong, but that's what I'm kind of feeling from this. So if we lift our import duties on imported goods that we should or could make here, and we take that funding and we put it to the, say that the bigger manufacturers that are mass producing here, and incentivize them to export, we'll create more platinum sale overseas. We'll also be opening a vacuum for the middle people, middle manufacturers to enter their position, and for them to supply local market. And in so doing, we'll be opening a place for the small guys to become middle guys. And in so doing, the micro guys that don't have a place, this problem where everyone is saying route to market, it's because a space hasn't been created for them, firstly. Secondly, their skills have to compete with what's available for import. If we can't compete with import, we can't compete at all.
Sure.
Okay, so with high-tech equipment and specialized training, we definitely can. From 2015, so for instance, in 1995, the RMB was somewhere, if I'm correct, around 1.75 RMB to the rand. By up to 2015, we were 1 for 1. And from then onwards, it's more than 2 rand 20 to 1 RMB. So now if you look at that difference, you'll see that where they were half price, just the exchange rate has created a level playing field.
Yeah.
For us to enter the international playing field, we need the government to assist us. If they can become an enabling body for exporters to have a leading edge, all of the things I've told you can start to take place.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Vuyokazi?
Thank you. I'll start with the first question. I think that related to P1 and P2. The MQA still funds P1 and P2, the workplace integrated learning. And previously, we've had to prioritize some of the interventions. We still funded P1 and P2. We may not have in that financial year prioritized mineral processing, but on annual basis, as the demand changes within our sector, that's how we prioritize the funding. But P1 and P2 is still funded via the MQA. I think the second question was related to the mining charter and the fact that it's silent on the regulation of the jewelry and diamond processing. I think the mining charter is also related to the MPRDA, and the MPRDA itself is very silent on regulation around the jewelry and the diamond processing. Hence, you're seeing that the mining charter is not enforcing such similar regulations on the commodities like platinum, coal, and so on. So I guess my suggestion would be, let's go back, if we want to actually go and talk about regulating those kind of sectors, perhaps what we need to go back to is the MPRDA, because the mining charter is a subsection of that. I think the other question was relating to that, the rural areas and mine houses in terms of the skills transfer. I think within your social labor plans of each mine that's got a license, there is a requirement that they should train people within the local communities. And there's also a requirement that says that when you look for labor, the first place that you need to look in is the area around your mining town. So skills transfer becomes very critical. I guess the question is about, are the mining houses actually developing a pool that they can tap into within the communities that they are within? And if such things are happening, the SLP is there to actually enforce those things. So I will urge you that where there are such instances, please engage the mining houses and also engage your Department of Mineral and Resources, because there is actually audits that happen to ensure that that happens within those mining houses. I think the last question was relating to the DBS certificate to sell diamonds. I think the selling of diamonds and the market is regulated. You need to have a paper for you to be a seller of diamonds. So that part, I would think that is regulated by the state. I don't see it being regulated by one mining house. So I would then again say, let's engage so that I can get deeper to understand deeper the question as to what could be the issues relating to that specific case.
Okay.
But it shouldn't happen like that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Can we please give it up for our panel members, Mr. Mike Penyuma and Vuyokazi Mofu. I know there are people that have questions. I noted 2 hands. Please, can you see them? Unfortunately, we have run out of time. We need to be done by 4, and we left with 2 panel discussions. So please don't think I'm horrible. I just got a message from the bosses, and you know when the bosses talk, the bosses have spoken. So thank you very much. There are 2 people that need to connect with you, but I do hope that for future references, we can still get in touch.